Okay, so today we're going to be working through Chapter 1, Lessons 4 through 7, Basic Shapes. I'll go ahead and get my screen share. All right, and so this is an example. When we finish our file, it is going to look like this. So first thing that we need to do is, and I'll go through the Cengage steps. So if you don't have that open, not a big deal. It'll be right here. But first thing we need to do is find our place in the steps. And it says to click File in New, or you can just do this big blue New File button here. And you're going to get this dialog box to create a new file. Trying to make it smaller, sorry. There we go. All right, so it says create a new document that's 8 by 8 inches and name the file Basic Shapes. Oh no, I'm so sorry to hear that. I just got finished with it. It was not fun. All right, so Basic Shapes. And then if your document isn't already in inches, then you can use the drop down and set it to inches. And we're going to leave everything else the same and just click Create. Oops, I did something wrong. Hold on. Mine was set for 2 artboards. So we only need 1 artboard. I didn't catch that. There we go. Okay, so we have our nice square artboard here. So they're doing a few like discovery steps in here, showing you where things are in Illustrator. So one of the things is the default fill and stroke tool here on your toolbar. So remember, you have your toolbar here, your menu is across the top, then your control panel, and then you have your regular panels on the right. If your workspace doesn't look like mine, you'll need to go to Window, Workspace, and click Essentials Classic if you're not in Essentials Classic. If you are and your workspace still doesn't look like mine, that's okay. It's just some things have been moved around when you've been working. So you'll click Reset Essentials Classic. And that's going to pop the Properties panel out, which is really useful when we're not, split screen. So I'm going to tuck it away, but if you are working on a full screen, it is nice because you're going to see a lot of the tools that you might be looking for will go ahead and appear over here. All right. So what they're demonstrating also with this is how you swap the colors. So if you have different colors picked here and you have your object selected, and let's say that you wanted to have a black fill and a white stroke, you can just use these little toggles here and that will swap those. You can also always go back to your default fill and stroke by clicking there. And then if you ever want to remove a fill or stroke, you have this little none button here with the red line that will take away the fill or the stroke, whichever one you have toggled. You can also click them. I mean, it's 100 ways to do it right there. Okay. So now it says click the rectangle tool on the toolbar. And that's like the 4th one down over here. And then click and drag the rectangle tool on the artboard and release the mouse to make a rectangle of any size. So now they want us to draw a second rectangle holding down the shift key. And when you're holding down your shift key, you are constraining your proportions, meaning if ever you're using the rectangle tool or the ellipse tool and you're holding your shift key, you will make a perfect square or a circle. Without the shift key, you can make anything you want, rectangle or ellipse wise. But with the shift key, it's going to constrain those. All right, so then it says create a third rectangle drawn from the center point by pressing Alt as you drag the rectangle point tool. So what this is going to do, I'm just going to get rid of these, is make the rectangle come from the middle. So if I'm holding Alt, you can see the rectangle is now being drawn from the center. I can still hold the shift key and Alt as well if I wanted to, and it'll work the same. All right, so now we're going to learn about the rectangle dialog box. So I'm going to get rid of that one. And so verify the rectangle tool is still selected, and then you're just going to click once on your artboard, and you're going to get this little dialog box. This works with any of your shape tools. You select them, click once on the artboard, and it's going to give you a box so that you can specify the exact size that you want your shape to be. So for this one, it's going to be 4 inches by 4 inches. And now we're going to continue to the next lesson. Applying fill and strokes. Is everyone good? You all with me? Okay, so verify that the square is still selected. It's got this bounding box on it showing that it is selected. And then it says click the fill color on the toolbar to verify it's the active color. So right now I have none, but it is active because it's on top. Then it says click any blue color from the swatches panel to fill. So let's see, right now my swatches panel is about the third one down. I think yours should be in the same location if you reset your Essentials Classic. If you don't see this panel, you can go to Window and scroll down to Swatches and select it, and it will open up that panel. So I'm just going to stretch this box out a little bit, reselect my square, and I'm going to just choose a blue. I'm going to choose this one. So now click anywhere on your artboard or pasteboard to deselect. Then it says drag and drop a yellow swatch from the swatches panel onto the blue square on the artboard. So I'm just going to grab a yellow and drag it over to the blue square. See, I have this little plus sign now. And when I release my mouse key, that swatch is now applied. So now it wants me to switch to the stroke. You can use the shortcut key X on your keyboard, or you can just click the stroke to activate it. Then click any red swatch on the swatches panel. I'm going to apply that one. And then on the stroke panel, increase the weight to 8 points. So with my control bar here, I have the option to adjust the stroke. I also have my stroke panel. if I wanted to use that. And whenever you open a panel, especially if you open one that only has like one option, it's always a best idea to click on the panel menu options button there and click show options. So if I select the square, then I just have to click these. I don't know where my red stroke went. I must not have had it selected. But then I just have to click these buttons up to get the weight. Go back and apply that. There we go. All right, you with me so far? Okay, so now it's asking for us to look.
Hi, I'm sorry. My keyboard is typing in Chinese. But how do you get to the swatches again in the windows?
So you go under Window and then find the word swatches. Another adjustment you can make is if you hover over this line right here, you can actually pull out the panels so that you can see their name. So it may already be open. You may already have it there. But any panel that you open, always go to Window, and then you can find the panel and click it, and it will open. All right, so moving back into the stroke panel. Again, click these buttons, make sure that you're always showing all of the options. All right, so it's asking us to look at the align stroke section of the stroke panel. So right now, the stroke is aligned to center, which means that out of 8 points, you have 4 points on the outside of the line and 4 points on the inside of the line. If you align to the inside, all 8 points of that stroke are now in the interior of the shape. And then if you align to the outside, they're all on the outside. And I'll zoom in so you can see that a little better. All right, so now it says to click none on the swatches panel to remove the stroke from the square. So I'm going to be good and follow what they say. Put my stroke panel back here. If I have the swatches open, again, you see those two fill and stroke toggles there. And you can click these just like you would over here to activate whichever one you're working with, fill or stroke. So I click stroke to activate that, and I'm going to select none right here in the swatches panel. So we're back to just our yellow square. All right, so now we're going to learn about selecting, moving, and aligning objects. And so they want us to go to the view menu and do fit artboard and window. You can also do your keyboard keys Control 0 to do this. And it just backs up everything and makes sure that you can see the full artboard. Also, this got pulled out somehow when I was working. So if you see, if I pull it kind of to the edge there, it lights up blue, and that indicates that I'm docking the panel back, or this toolbar, I'm sorry. All right, and so now they are asking us to verify that our smart guides and snap to point are activated. So we're going to go under view again. Remember, this is where you'll always show and hide rulers, grids, and guides. Okay, so let's see. Smart guides are down here. Make sure you click those on. And then you have snap to point at the bottom, and you're going to want to click that on as well. All right, so then you're going to click the selection tool. For those of you who like the keys, you can always choose V on your keyboard for the selection tool. So if you're in something else, just click V and it will end whatever you're using and take you back to the selection tool. So position your pointer over the top left anchor point. So whenever you click on an object, you can see you have these anchor points appear, and we're in our selection tool. So these indicate that we can globally manipulate this object, meaning resize it. We can do free transform things like rotating it and whatnot with these points. However, I cannot manipulate these points individually with this tool. All right, so position the pointer at the left anchor, click and drag so that the anchor point aligns with the top left corner of the artboard. So I'm not certain if this is what they're asking you to do, is to resize it, but you're more than welcome. Personally, I wouldn't do it that way. Whenever I move objects, I always like to move them from the center. And so you can see when my mouse hovers over that center point, I get this weird little checker box thing. And that's the move indicator. So that's telling me that if I press my mouse key down now, I can move this object. And so then I'm going to just kind of snap it right there. All right, so now we're going to duplicate the square. As you learned in the first assignment, one of the easiest ways to duplicate something is by getting that move tool visible, and then you hold down your Alt key and you can see the little arrows change. And that indicates that I can now drag and drop a copy. So I hold down my mouse key, I can drag, and then release Alt, and then release my mouse key. Oops, I did that wrong. Release my mouse key, then release Alt. Always get it backwards the first time. So now we're going to make a copy of both of these. So I'm going to hold Shift so that both are selected, and then holding my Alt key, I'm going to zoom out a little bit, but holding my Alt key, going to drag to the other corner. You see my smart guides are telling me that I'm intersecting there. Release my mouse and then release my Alt key. And so now I have 4 different shapes here. And then we can go ahead and open our swatches panel and give them different fills. You are welcome to use whatever colors that you like. Oops. One thing though, make sure that your fill is activated and not your stroke. guess I'll use these basic primaries, even though they kind of hurt my eyes. All right, moving on. Okay, so sorry, I'm trying to remember back to what life was like in what do you call it, in Unit 1. Okay, so they're showing us about selecting things and then undoing them before we make this copy. Okay, so select the green square, then click the scale tool, double click the scale tool, sorry. And we get this dialog box. So any of your transform tools are these two icons here, and then they have tools underneath. Oops. So rotate and reflect are there. And then scale and shear are here. And then you have your free transform right below that. So let me undo because I'm somewhere else. Okay, there we go. So I'm double clicking the scale tool for the dialog box and I'm going to enter 50. So I want a uniform scale of 50%. So that means I'm making it smaller by 50%. And then I'm just going to click OK. And so now I've made a 50% version of the square that I had. Then it tells us to undo that. So you can always undo by going to Edit, Undo, or Control Z on your keyboard. All right, so now they're going to have us do the same thing again, but this time we're going to be making a copy. So enter 50, and then instead of clicking OK, I'm going to click Copy. And so there's two squares here now. One is 50% smaller than the other one. Fill the new square with blue. So I'll open these swatches back up and I'll click a blue swatch. So now double click the rotate tool and type 45 in the angle box and click OK. So with my square selected, I'm going to double click rotate. And in this angle box, I'm going to say I want you to rotate it 45 degrees and then click OK. And now I'm going to give the diamond, I should say, a yellow stroke that's 22 points. So I'll click here, or I can do this in my swatches panel to activate the stroke. Apply yellow. And then I can open my stroke panel or use my control bar to give it 22-point stroke. Then I'm going to select my selection tool and deselect the object. All right, so now we are going to draw an ellipse and do some transformations with that. So behind your rectangle tool, if you hold down on your tools, you can see the ones that are behind it. I'm going to select the ellipse tool. I'm going to click once on my artboard to get the dialog box, and then click 3 inches wide and 0.5 inches high. and then OK. And so Illustrator always remembers, whatever you already had set up that you had applied to your last shape. So it's just going to replicate whatever you already have. So I'm going to change the fill color to none and the stroke color to blue and give it a 3-point stroke. The easiest way to do that right now would be to switch my fill and stroke since I already have blue here. Then I'm going to click my fill, click none. And then I'm going to just change my weight up here to 3 points. I'm going to move this back into the yellow square. All right, so now I'm going to double click the rotate tool and rotate a copy 45 degrees. So I already have 45 set up. Instead of clicking OK, I'm going to click copy. And so it made a copy at a 45-degree rotation. So if you are doing something where you are repeating a transform command, you can always go to your menu and do Object, Transform, Transform again, and it will do the exact same thing that you had just set up. Or you can, on your keyboard, do Control D. So now it wants me to select my ellipses and group them. I love a marquee select, but I do have this annoying little yellow square back here that's gonna try to be a part of my group. So what I'm gonna do is since I know that these are good where they are, I'm gonna select both of these squares. I'm gonna go to Object, Lock, Selection. Then I can do a marquee selection around my ellipses and go to Object, Group. All right, so the next one is going to have us draw a star. So you're going to select your star tool, click once on your artboard to get the dialog box, and then type 1 in the radius 1 and 5 in the radius 2. And 5 points. So we already have 5, so we're good. And just to explain what the radiuses mean, I'm gonna move this down here for a second. So whenever you draw a shape like a star, you have basically two round points that it's following. The first radius that it's referring to is going to be the center radius. So that's radius 1. And then on the outside, you have radius 2. So in that box, we input that we wanted this to be 1 inch and we wanted this to be 5. So that's just a little side lesson for understanding when you're creating a star, what those radius boxes mean. Okay. So select our star back, and then we're going to double click the scale tool. And we're going to scale this down 25%. And we're just clicking OK. So I'm going to move that back into its box down here. And so now we're going to apply a white stroke, a white fill and a blue stroke, a 5-point blue stroke. So I'm going to go ahead and toggle these. And then in my swatches panel, select the fill, select white, and up here, type up to 5. All right. Hold on, I'm not certain what the point of this is. Okay, I did that. So I think they're just wanting me to show you the reflection tool, which is behind the rotate tool. So if you were to click the star, then underneath your rotate, select reflect, and then you'll just double click this to get this box, which this is one of those things that is in the control panel, or I'm sorry, in the properties panel as well, that kind of pops up when you're working with shapes. It's a little bit easier to find because you can just look for these little symbols here. But this is showing you that you can rotate, I have my little preview button on. You can rotate, reflect horizontal or vertical shapes at different angles. I'm still not certain like what they're trying to get me to show you. It's there. We'll use it. We'll use it eventually. But you could make, let's say, a 90-degree horizontal copy, and then you would have like 2. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, there you go. It's an option. All right, so last one. We're going to click the polygon tool underneath. And then anywhere on the blue square to open the dialog box. And we're going to do 1.5 in the radius. And with 3 sides. So we're making a triangle. And then click OK. And it says fill the triangle with red. So my swatches panel, I'll click red. And then give it a yellow stroke at 22 points. So select the stroke, make it yellow. And then you can type or bump it up to 22 here. All right. And that is it for this assignment. Everyone good? Or do you have any questions? Or you need me to do something? Okay, well, I'm happy to stay and help if anybody needs it. I'm going to shut off the recording so I can send that out.